Hello, Nicholas Burling here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be cooking. The reason for that is I've been in a bit of a funk lately. I've been feeling quite depressed. That happens now and again, but I was trying to figure out what to do for a video, and then I realized, well, maybe some of you would be interested in learning about how I cook when I'm feeling depressed and I just don't have a lot of energy. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I go out and I get food, but I try to cook as much as possible when I'm able to, and I have a few simple dishes that I typically go to because I find I can whip them off very quickly and I actually enjoy cooking them. So today's dish is pesto tortellini. I look like a slob. My place is always under construction, so I know that this is not the set that I would normally be using. Not that it's really a set at all. This is just my kitchen, but I will do my best in the setup that I have, and hopefully this is useful for you. So you're going to start with a pot like this. You're going to fill the water up to about 2/3. I'm no chef, so I watch a lot of cooking videos and really strange ones, Mythical Kitchen, shout out, but I'm going to be showing you how I do things, and it may not be the typical chefy way of doing things, but I have gotten here through a lot of experimentation. I've been making this recipe for a very long time, so I'm very confident in my ability to make this turn out well. So 2/3 full of water, put that on here. I only have one burner that works on this stove, so I'm going to set it on high. We're going to get this thing up to boiling temperature. So this is one of my favorite things, Lowry seasoning salt, so I'm going to put a little bit of that in. Don't undersalt your water. It should taste like seawater when you're making it. I also like to make this like a little bit of a broth, so I'm going to put in a few other ingredients now. A little bit of pepper. I really like the flavors of paprika and chili. I don't actually know which is which. One of them is spicy, the other one isn't. Make sure you know if you don't like spicy food, but I'm going to put a little bit of both of those in there. I don't like to put it into the tortellini directly because I feel like it doesn't cook out quite enough. It doesn't have quite the flavor I'm looking for. So I'm going to put that in now, and we're going to make like this brothy solution that is going to cook the tortellini. And lastly, add a little bit of oil. This is just extra virgin olive oil. Just a little bit of that in there. And that's it. We're going to wait for this to come to a boil. I really don't know how to do this very well. I feel like I should be more engaging, more entertaining. You know, Mythical Chef, he's all up. This thing is, whoo! Something's smoking in there. If you're not splashing a little bit on your stove, what are you doing, really? I really couldn't get myself into this. I didn't want to come in here. I didn't want to cook today, and I'm using you as an excuse to do this and making this my weekly video, as well as my chance to actually make myself some dinner instead of either eating out, which I don't have the money to do at the moment, or just not eating, because depression's kind of like that. The interesting thing about being depressed is I can be very functional in some aspects of my life and very non-functional in other aspects. So generally speaking, work is something that I never struggle with. I've got a very firm commitment to work, and that's something that I will get down to regardless of how depressed I am. Typically it's chores that are a really big problem for me. I'm doing a lot of drawing lately, and yeah, that's about it. It's like watching a pot boil. Is it ever gonna boil? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. This is also, I don't know, is this a weird angle? Maybe? No? So for the tortellini, often what I'll do is I'll go to Costco, I'll pick up a huge thing of tortellini, and maybe I'll even add some other kinds of pasta to it. If you want to make this vegan, very easy to do. Just don't use pasta like I'm doing, which has cheese in it. Use vegan pasta. And then when it comes to finishing off the plate, you can use vegan pesto, and you can use a vegan finish on it, whether it's vegan cheese or nutritional yeast or whatever it might be. So you can make this vegan fairly easily. I don't do it very often, but I do make it vegetarian because I don't eat meat. I get my basil pesto from Costco, and normally, like I said, I would get these from Costco as well, but don't have any left over from Costco. I do still randomly have this one in the freezer. So 2 main ingredients today. I use this pesto from Costco because it's incredible, but also it's just really easy. Pop it in the freezer, and you can pull it out anytime you want and just chip off a few blocks and pop it in the pan, and it melts with the heat of the pasta, so you don't even have to microwave it and mix it together. But that's what I like to use. This pesto is incredible. So this pasta is frozen. I like to throw my pasta in the freezer as soon as I get it, just to make sure it lasts for a long time and that I never run out of pasta. There's always something in the freezer. There's always pesto in the freezer. I can always easily make this meal. And it takes 5 to 7 minutes normally for this to cook. But because I'm cooking it from frozen, it needs a little bit of time to thaw. So you need to play around with that a little bit if you're in this situation. I'll typically cook it for an extra couple minutes. And I just want to make sure it's al dente, so I'll taste it periodically. I also want to pull it out of the water before it gets to the point of being too soft, because it's going to cook a little bit more from the residual heat. So the water's just come to a bit of a simmer at the moment, which is when I'm going to put this in. I put it in a little bit before it gets to the boiling point. Like I mentioned before, this is frozen pasta, and that allows it to come up to temperature a little bit more slowly instead of going right into the boiling water. And I find it just makes for a better texture of pasta, and I can cook my pasta using this method. I really don't notice a lot of difference between doing this from frozen and doing it from fresh, so that's a big bonus, and maybe it has something to do with this. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but that's how I like to do it. Give it a quick stir. That separates all of the pasta so that when I finish here, I'm not going to have bits of pasta clumped together. You also want to stir it periodically as well, because sometimes it'll like to stick to the bottom of the pan, so just keep it moving. But having a little bit of oil in there, I find, seems to help a little bit with that as well. Come with me and you'll see some tortellini in a pot. There you go. That's what it looks like. Yeah, this is kind of fun. I should make these videos more often. Oh, and there's my hair hanging from. So don't let the water boil over. You can see, I don't know if you can see from here, but it's starting to foam a little bit. So, turn that down. Still above halfway. Just try to keep it at a boil, but make sure it's not boiling over. You've probably boiled water before, but just in case. Of course, I forgot what time I put this on, so we're going to have to test it periodically to make sure it's right, but I know it's only been on for a few minutes, so let's see how this goes. Stir the pot, stir the pot. I mean, you know me well enough by now to know that I'm very good at stirring the pot. I don't often have all of the ingredients I need to make a specific dish that I want to make, but I can often find ingredients and make some weird concoction and have a lot of fun with it, so check it out, Culinary Brodown. Not my book, not sponsored either, but Josh is a pretty awesome person. The Mythical Kitchen is hilarious. Check it out, figure out how to make some wacky recipes. Hopefully now you can hear me a little bit better. I don't know if I included that in the video, but I was getting some smoking on the stove, as you do when you're using a crappy stove and you haven't cleaned it that well, so I had to have the fan on. Alright, let's see how this tortellini's doing. That's perfect. So take it off the stove, turn off the heat, get your colander out, put it over your sink. I'm just going to pour that out. Oh, that's not a good shot. I don't rinse off my pasta, get all of the water off of it as much as I can, but I want it to stay nice and hot. So I'm just going to let it rest here for a second. The reason I want it to get nice and hot is that this is frozen pesto. So what I'm going to do with the frozen pesto is just chip it off with a knife, put it in this pot that I've been using. Where can you see it? Over here, I guess. And I'm just going to chip off quite a bit. More pesto than you would think. I'm going to chip off a fair amount of this. If you're not spilling stuff on your stove while you're doing this, you're not doing it right. You're not getting into your cooking enough. So be messy. Or don't be messy, because cleaning up sucks. I also forgot I don't have very much pasta. So I may have used a little too much pesto, but you can honestly never have too much pesto, so don't worry about it. Now that you have your pesto in the pot, you're going to want to put it back on that burner that was on. The burner's off now, but it still has some residual warmth to it. That's going to heat up the frozen pesto. It's going to make it a little bit more liquidy so it mixes better into your pasta. You want to do all of this fairly quickly because this pasta here is starting to cool down, and you want it to have enough residual heat to melt that pesto. And the pesto is basically doing the job of stopping it from cooking the way that running it under cold water would. So for me, it's just cutting out a step. This is depressed pasta, and that means I want as few steps as possible. Get that pesto, break it up. Alright, so that's easily enough. It's still chunky, but with the tortellini being hot, it's going to melt that down. So you pop the tortellini back in. Clearly I'm not doing something right because all of the tortellini made it back into this pot. This is really not a good setup for trying to show you all of this. Good thing I'm not a cooking channel. Although, If you like this kind of content, let me know, because I'm happy to make more of it. I do have multiple recipes that I'll do on a regular basis. Right, so you can see now that this is nicely coated with pesto. So one of the things I would often do at this point is put in some cheese and some Parmesan and mix that in, get it all melty. I don't have any Parmesan right now, but what I do have is nutritional yeast. So I'm going to use nutritional yeast instead. That might not be your taste, so use Parmesan if it's not, but I really love nutritional yeast, so this is definitely still perfectly fine for me. I absolutely love the stuff. Don't worry, vagina havers, different kind of yeast. This is not going to set you off in any way. I've had so many people tell me they don't want to try nutritional yeast because they're scared off by the idea of yeast in general. You eat bread, don't you? Same kind of thing. Nutritional yeast. I use a fairly healthy amount of it, and it's also really good for you. It has a lot of vitamin B12, so especially if you're not a meat eater, this is really helpful for you. That's basically all you have to do for this recipe. This is super easy. And if you want to add some vegetables, I don't have vegetables at the moment. I've been drinking smoothies because I ran out of fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to have to go to the store and get some soon. But if you want to add vegetables, I find tomatoes, if you get cherry tomatoes and cut them in half, they work really well in here. You can have, obviously, vegetables on the side, have a salad, whatever it might be. So now I'm going to plate it up and show you what we've got here. Do I use it all? Yeah. Who am I kidding? I'm eating this whole thing. So you can add whatever you want at the moment. Might want to put a little bit of black pepper on there. I don't normally, but for the sake of the video, sure, why not? Let's do that. Now I'm going to put a little bit more nutritional yeast. So I do this with Parmesan as well. I'll put Parmesan in the dish, melt it in. I find it has a nice flavor and texture that way, but I also like the texture and flavor of having it on top. If you are using Parmesan, I really recommend using a microplane. I love the sort of the fluffiness of the cheese when you use a microplane. So I'm just going to put the nutritional yeast on top the same way that I would sprinkle Parmesan over it. Probably a little less. I go a little wild with my Parmesan because I love cheese. So with nutritional yeast, sprinkle it over like a normal person, I guess, would put Parmesan on their pasta. So that's it. Just like that. Pasta's done. This is delicious. You can play around with it in so many ways. So that's it for my pesto pasta recipe. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope this is something you're interested in trying, and maybe it helps you with cooking while you're depressed. I know it does for me, and that's what I'm hoping to share with today's video. If this is the kind of thing that you like seeing, if you want to see more cooking videos like this, please let me know. I have other recipes that I'm happy to make as well and share with you. And you can let me know in the comments down below. You can let me know by liking this video. If you want to see more content like this and my other trans-related content, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you get notified every time I post a new video. I'm about to go enjoy my pasta. So until next time, have a great day. You make